Welcome back to Brick and Brand, a podcast at the intersection of retail and entrepreneurship. We're your co-hosts, Layne and Brettley Roach. Today, we're sitting down with someone who I think we can safely say is a QSR industry legend, Garrett Reed. He's worked with brands like Starbucks, Dunkin Donuts, and Corner Bakery. He then went on to start his own real estate company, and then he took all of that expertise and applied it to a Texas cult favorite that we all know and love, Layne's Chicken Fingers. Today, we're going to be talking growth, chicken, franchising, real estate, and everything in between. Garrett, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I don't know if all that's true. You used some other stuff in there, but all right, we'll go with it.
It's true and more, right? You've done a lot more than just that.
Again, you're making me blush, but okay.
Yeah. And as a Texas girl now for 15 years, I'm from California originally, but very familiar with the brand. And it's been so exciting to kind of watch you guys grow and take over DFW and beyond. So I'm personally excited for this conversation.
Cool. Me too. This will be fun.
So before we get into Layne's and everything you've done with that company, I want to go back a little bit in your career because you had a full career before you were even involved in Layne's.
I did, yeah.
You studied finance, you worked in-house for real estate brands in various roles, such as Starbucks, Dunkin Donuts, and others. Can you kind of walk us through the progression leading up to Layne's? What were your roles at these various companies, and how did you even get into real estate?
Yeah, so it's a story. I don't know if it's a cool story. I'll say cool story. To me, it's cool. So I grew up in College Station, Texas, which is where Texas A&M is. And my family actually moved to the DFW area my senior year of high school. So came up here my senior year, ended up enjoying the Metroplex, didn't really want to go back to the small town. So I ended up going to the University of North Texas. And didn't know what I wanted to do, had no idea. I thought finance, if you learn how to do finance, you can do anything in business. So I started studying finance, and I bumped into a professor. His name was Dr. John Bain. He's since passed, but he became somewhat of a mentor of mine. He was a real estate professor, and he kind of took me under his wing. We got to be hard and fast friends. And having conversations in his office, actually one night after school, he was talking about how people have the job. I think he was talking about Jack in the Box specifically. I think he knew somebody at Jack in the Box, where their sole purpose was to analyze real estate, do the financial analysis of the development and all the intricacies that went to it. And I remember thinking, that sounds like the coolest job in the world. Like, they're going to pay you to do something like that. And I guess he saw the interest that I had in that. And he said, hey, I know some guys at Radio Shack in Fort Worth. Why don't you go talk to them, maybe do an internship or something like that, see what the real estate stuff's all about. So I went in without an internship available. Talked to a gentleman by the name of Mark Hullinger. He ran the real estate department back then. And he ended up hiring me as a real estate manager my senior year. So I had to end up taking night classes, worked at Radio Shack as a real estate manager. And all I did back then was lease renewals. So just kind of learning the business, what do leases look like, how to deal with landlords, all that kind of stuff. I graduated, became a site selector, started traveling around the United States, actually analyzing sites, traffic patterns, what makes a site successful, what doesn't, the economics of them, the construction build out and all that kind of stuff. Now, this was the late 90s, so things have changed. We used to have to fly aerial photography with an actual airplane. We didn't have cell phones, so it was a tougher job back then.
For sure.
But that's how I got started. Ended up leaving there and going to work for Starbucks back in the early days of Starbucks when they started implementing the drive-through concept. They started doing freestanding buildings. That led to me and a close friend of mine who was at Radio Shack with me and then went to Starbucks with me to scratch our heads and say, this could be done better. Like, there's a better way to do this. And so we started formulating a plan. and we went and proposed it to our bosses out in Fountain Valley. And we left Starbucks and started a real estate development company. We did a lot of consulting with Corner Bakery and some other concepts along the way that weren't necessarily doing build-to-suits, but we knew how to do site selection, market analyzation, and all. That's what we were really experts in. So then I went on to I've built and done analysis for, I don't know, 400 or 500 different build-to-suits. Our specialty at my company was really not that we were a build-to-suit developer, not that we owned a piece of land and we would build it for you. Like our relationship with a group like Dutch Bros, that was our recent relationship, or Les Schwab Tires, who we've worked on in the last few years. Where we really shined in my company, Main & Main, was we would go in and market plan for them. This is why this site will be successful, and this is why you should do the site. So we kind of became their outsourced real estate department, and the way we were compensated for that is, hey, this might be a ground lease, this might be a build-to-suit, but this 1 out of 4, we could actually buy it and own it, and that's how we got compensated. So the entire development company that I created with my brother really was based on market research, market planning, all the due diligence and all that kind of stuff. So that's where my background comes from. So being in the restaurant business was a natural. So that's kind of my history. I could keep on going into why I bought Layne's, but that's my real estate background.
Now, how old were you when you started your own company, when you went from Starbucks to, because that's a big leap.
I was probably 26, 27, maybe.
That's crazy.
It was prior to 30 years old. I know that for a fact.
It's very young.
You also started working as a site selector at a very young, like you were still in college.
Yeah. I was a senior in college. Well, I wasn't a site selector at the time. I just was a lease guy. But right when I graduated, I got the
sure.
Yeah. So
still, that's very impressive.
So I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Before my beard was gray.
What did working inside brands like Starbucks and Dunkin teach you about how national restaurant companies grow differently versus smaller emerging concepts?
I think the knowledge of working inside with all these concepts is invaluable. It's the way that they think and they see things. I really learned the relationship between the operations team and the real estate team. And I think there's a serious disconnect in the construction and development industry where a lot of real estate people don't understand. This is what I say. The real estate team builds a house that then the operators have to live in for 20 years, right? So they build the house and sometimes you slap it together. There's not a lot of thought about where you live, how close you are to work, that analogy, right? And so when I really got to spend time with these operators and see this is how they feed their families, this is how they make their money, this is how they get bonused, you see how important the house is to them and all the little things you don't think about. So I think the tremendous value that I took away from being inside with these guys day to day, touring with them in cars, talking to them, learning about them, is the connection between the two and how interconnected they are. Because a lot of times in real estate, we do a deal. Everybody likes to say, we're doing a deal. I'm doing a deal. I'm doing a deal. Well, yeah, you did a deal, but now somebody's got to live with your deal for the next 20 years and you're off to the next one. I think real value in real estate developers and real estate site selectors is when they understand the long-term commitment that they're making to the operations team and not the short-term financial gain, whether it's a bonus that you get or whatever. But by being in-house with those guys, I really got to see what that long-term effect was, right? You do a deal and then you still office 2 floors down from the guy that has to live with your deal. And so you get to hear about how your deal's going. A lot of times when you're on the outside, you do a deal, then you leave and you have no idea. I think
that's, I love that perspective. And we actually talk a lot about that on this podcast, how being on the real estate side, like we are, it's very easy to sign the lease, do the deal, and then you don't necessarily think about it every day for 20 years thereafter. All the little things, whether it's in the lease or in your case, the operations, those are things that can make or break the business, and they happen outside of the real estate deal. So I think that's something that the real estate community as a whole, we need to be more cognizant of and more aware of when we're deal making. So I want to backpedal a little bit because you talked about when you were working with Starbucks and you saw a need, and that's kind of what triggered you to then develop your own real estate company.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed hearing your perspective on that in the Restaurant Unstoppable episode because I could relate so much how you said you're going in to meet with these local families saying, sell me your land. And they're saying, get out of here, right? And so you had to come up with this other solution.
Yeah.
But that is still a big jump to go from being a restaurant person to a developer, especially at a young age. I'm assuming you didn't have much experience in development. It's so difficult and complicated.
None.
What gave you the confidence to do that? Or was there any part of you that was like, I don't know if I can figure this out?
It's actually even more complicated than that. And this goes back to personality. So what gave me the confidence is the way I was born. I'm not going to take any credit. I didn't read a book. I didn't watch a podcast. Well, there's no podcast back then. I didn't read a book. I wasn't inspired by somebody to do something special. It's just the way that I'm wired. And so I'll tell you guys something that nobody else knows. I don't think I've ever talked about this on a podcast before, but when I decided this is kind of crazy. So I thought this idea was so sound and there was such a need for it in the market. When my partner and I decided to quit our jobs, which we were making good money, right? And go out on this venture, we had zero money, nothing. I'm sure I've told you guys, or you've heard in other podcasts, that we didn't even understand what bank financing was. We didn't understand any of these things. We just knew how to build these and we knew where good sites were. This is funny. I had a 10-month-old son. My wife had a baby, 10 months old. And she had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, terminal diagnosis. So they were like, your wife's not going to live. You have a 10-month-old son. And in that same week, I told my poor wife, she's a saint. We're not together anymore, but she's an absolute saint. I told her, honey, guess what? I'm going to go ahead and quit my job and start my own business. So if you want to understand the personality behind me, I have this when I believe that something's going to work, I do not let things fail. And you'll see that common thread through everything. I'm the guy that will work 18 hours a day and just make it happen. So that's just wired. So there wasn't something that just said, hey, this lead, do this thing, just went out and did it. I knew that it would work.
Put in the work.
I knew that if I just leveraged relationships and did things, it worked out. It worked out fine. So yeah. It was a crazier situation than you would even think when I did it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
That's insane.
No sane person would have done what I did.
So to all of our listeners, don't ever do what Garrett did.
Do not. No. Not unless you're ready to do it.
That confidence is a product of how you were raised, or where do you think where do you think that came from, other than maybe just kind of innate personality trait?
It's interesting. I have two siblings. So my younger brother, Eric, who works with me, he's a partner at Layne's. He was a partner at Main and Main. He also has that level of confidence. I'm way more, we both are very confident, but I think I'm an extreme risk taker. So I don't think it's really confidence. I think it's somebody that can tolerate risk.
Yeah.
So there's something wired. So we're all very confident, but there's something wired in my brain that just says, the risk there, the whatever synapses or whatever that connects that say risk is bad, be scared. They don't
Yours
connect.
is broken.
There's a lot of stuff in my brain that's broken, but I think the risk part is really broken. So,
well, you talked about briefly in the past, you've talked about how you are more of a visionary type person and you're good at details, but you're not great at details, which I think that's a great analogy because I kind of feel the same way about myself. And so I'm guessing you kind of saw this opportunity from that zoomed out perspective and were like, the details will figure themselves out. We'll figure those out, but this is an opportunity I can't pass up. And you were right.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've been very, very fortunate in my life to be surrounded by two business partners that are the exact. How about this? So there's Matt, myself, and Eric. we're the three partners that have kind of done everything. Matt's a private equity guy, made all his money doing that. He is overly detailed, 5 minutes early for every meeting, a rule follower to the T. I just can't say how analytical and black and white he is.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no black and white in my life. It is all gray. And then Eric kind of rests in the middle. So it's almost like this is a poor analogy because they're two really successful people. It's like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a guy that could execute and do it. And then there was the Steve Jobs who just had a vision and said, create the iPod. I don't know how the hell to do it, but this is what it needs to look like. That's kind of where I come from is been lucky to be surrounded by people where I can have a vision, tell me what the execution part is, then I'll go execute it. So yeah.
And you need both.
Delaney
and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah, my success is truly not derived from me solely. I mean, if you saw the team here at Layne's or the team back at Main and Main, can't speak, incredible people. I mean, the best people I've ever worked with. I mean, right down to Tanya, I'm sure you guys scheduled this with. I mean, if it wasn't for Tanya, I'd probably just sit here and not know what to do. So you have to be surrounded by incredible people to be successful.
Yeah, I love that.
And I am. I cannot think of somebody on my team that's not absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about that a lot, putting people in the right positions and having that complementary balance and personalities. I feel like Brettley and I we're obviously sisters, so we're very, very similar in so many ways, but we also have that good balance of she can see a little bit more of the 50 feet above and like the next 10 years. And I'm like, okay, how are we actually going to do this though? Like,
don't worry about that, Delaney.
There you go. Yeah. We're
great.
The same. And you're, there's Eric and Garrett. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that.
So I love it. Okay. So I want to move forward a little bit to Layne's Chicken. You said you grew up around College Station and you knew Layne's as a Texas A&M cult favorite long before you owned it. When did you first begin looking at it through an investor or developer's lens rather than simply as a customer or just a lover of the brand?
It actually stemmed from a visit to a football game in 2016, maybe the end of football season 15, I believe it was. A trip to the restaurant on a game day. And having been there so many times before when it was just normal traffic and just seeing the line out the door and people having conversations in front of me about when they were there in college and people going out front taking pictures with their kids. And I was like, this place is not just special to me. This place is special to a whole community. And so there's actually a Raising Cane's right next door to it, which was equally as busy. Right there. Yeah. Those guys built right next door to us. They don't like us. They don't like that we started before them. I think it embarrasses them.
It's revenge. Yeah.
Come on, guys. We're all in the chicken business.
Just be friends.
Yeah. No, I don't want to be their friend, but the chicken
frenemies.
Frenemy. But anyway, so equally as busy, but I looked over there and I saw the cars in the drive-thru and everything. And then I looked at the people waiting in line and I was like, there's a passion behind this. And that's just a store. And so I started to think, man, maybe I could. I actually originally wanted to franchise it. So I'm a real estate developer. I could go build these everywhere. Running restaurants is easy. Anybody can do it, right? It's the easiest business in the world. It's not really. I'm being very sarcastic.
I was like,
that before.
Yeah, it's the most complicated business. I would rather be in anything but restaurants. So really, that day was the day that it was like, I'll become a franchisee, and ended up calling up Mike Garrett, visiting with him. And he was Mike Garrett is a funny guy. He's a really cool dude. And he basically just said, I have nothing to franchise. I don't want to be a franchisor. I have nothing to franchise. The conversations went on for quite a while. Moved into, why don't you let me buy the brand? Matt and I talked and eventually we reached an agreement to where we could purchase the brand and grow the brand. and Mike was pivotal in us getting it because he had to believe in Matt and I and have faith in the fact that we could actually do what we wanted to do. So that's when it happened back then.
And did that process take a couple of years from when you first approached Mike, or how quickly did it go from, hey, maybe we can franchise to, hey, you're now partners?
I want to say it was within like 4 to 6 months. Yeah,
So it happened very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah, very quickly.
Wow.
And he was going to sell us the whole brand. And I think I try to put this in and everywhere. I was actually traveling on a flight and I watched the movie The Founder. We were about to ink the document, so we were negotiating. And I watched The Founder. And at the end of the movie, Ray Kroc just cheats the hell out of the McDonald's brothers, right? If you've seen the movie. And I remember landing and calling Matt and said, hey, Matt, we got to leave Mike in this. And he's like, what? And I go, we've got to leave Mike in as a partner because this thing's going to blow up. This is going to be 1,000+ unit company one day. It's going to be worth billions of dollars. And if he doesn't get to go along for the ride, I'm like, as a human being, we can't do that. And Matt's like, that's cool. All right, we'll keep him in. So Mike still owns a small piece of Layne's today.
Wow. The movie inspired you.
If I wouldn't watch that movie on the plane, we would have just done that. And I'm sure Mike appreciates that.
I'm sure.
And did you know Mike before you approached him because you grew up, you had a personal relationship with him?
Yeah, I didn't know him in elementary school, although we went to the same elementary school. So he's a grade below me and a grade above my brother. In high school, we were in the same math class together. He's a bit of a class clown, kind of a cut up. I was the dumb kid that couldn't do anything. So we both sat in the back of the room and tried to get through it. But we weren't
And look at you now.
Yeah, it's always the C and D students that ended up running stuff, right?
Yeah. Literally.
I'm definitely closer to the D student. But we weren't friends. We never hung out or anything like that, but we crossed paths throughout our lives.
Yeah.
To different things. So
knew of each other. Yeah.
Yep. Eric, I think, played ball on a team with him, and he was in my math class, so we knew each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it easier to have that relationship. So once you purchased the brand, you spent a couple years getting all the infrastructure in place before you actually started then franchising it or scaling it. What were some of the things that needed to be stress tested and kind of bettered before you took that next step within the company?
Well, let me just say the simple way to say that is everything. So Mike had a cult brand that if you went to a Layne's 9 years ago, you would drive up to the window, place your order, and wait for the food to come out. I mean, there wasn't even any drive-through technology. Casio keyboard for a POS system. So it was everything. So we spent a year figuring out all the policies, procedures. We had to not create, but buy POS technology, all of those things that go into it, create the supply chain. At the time it was with Cisco, order guides, all that kind of stuff. So we spent about a year doing that. And then we thought it would take, Matt and I debate over this all the time. I don't know if we said 5 years or 4 years, but we wanted to run our own stores for an extended period of time and prove that the concept actually worked at scale. And that's when the kind of the joke of running restaurants is easy comes in. This is still, I'm running my development company, Matt's in private equity, and restaurants are easy. We're just going to create these processes and we're going to open these restaurants. They're going to make tons of money and be successful. Not the case. Not the case. So we opened 3 restaurants in Dallas, 90 days apart, not having a clue how to run restaurants. And I think the bad part of it were they were tremendously successful. I mean, everybody came to them. So we had to change a lot of things, create a lot of things. It was very difficult to learn how to interact with employees and guests and all this kind of stuff. I ended up stepping down from Main and Main. Eric ran Main and Main, and I ran Layne's full time. So I got a education in actually how to run restaurants.
Yeah.
And it was about 3 years thereafter that we decided, we got this down. We're ready to go. We opened up Roanoke, which was our 4th store. That was kind of our 2.0. And we signed our first franchisee that year.
Wow.
And then the rest was franchised afterwards, after that?
We now have 9 corporate stores. So, I mean, we continue to build. We're building a corporate store in Salina right now, Texas. We're going to build a couple more stores in Dallas. I think that over the next 10 years, we'll probably have 30 corporate units, but it's a smaller part of our portfolio for sure. But we have built an organization that is completely based on servicing our franchisee. So you guys may have heard me say this before. Operating the restaurant business is completely different than being a franchisor. They're not even remotely the same business. Being a franchisor is a support organization. So I think we have 30 employees at the support center. None of those 30 employees have anything to do with our corporately run stores. We have a complete different corporate ops team. All they do is support franchisees.
Wow.
So we basically run 2 different businesses. We run our corporate stores like they were a franchise organization. They pay the same fees, same everything. And then we service our franchisees through. So Layne's is really a service business.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that it's so true that a lot of franchisees come in with the net worth that they're looking for, the franchisor is looking for, but no restaurant operation history, no idea how to run a restaurant. I managed a restaurant for like 4 or 5 years, and this was one location, not multiple. But before I got into real estate, and even having that experience in my back pocket, it's just so invaluable because it's such a tricky business. It's so multifaceted, and Brettley and I do a lot of franchise work, and it's tough to see these franchisees come in and they're just 6 feet underwater. They have no clue. And then the franchisor they've oversold or they're just hands off. You've got it, figure it out. And it's scary because all of a sudden their name's on a lease and they've got 20 years of rent to pay. So you obviously had the real estate and the restaurant operation side. When potential Layne sites come across your desk now, what are the things that you're evaluating using both sides of your experience?
It's kind of funny. Back in the day, I used to look at everything. Now we have a formal real estate committee where, Cordell, he's our director of real estate. Justin's our director of construction, do a full real estate package like any other big brand would do. So Eric is our chief development officer, my younger brother. So they will go through their real estate committee, analyze the site. So by the time it comes to me, it's pretty buttoned up. But having said that, what I always look for, the way I analyze sites and what I will ask in real estate committee is this approved trade area that we've done our due diligence on? Yes, it is. Okay. So now the first question I ask them is, what is the best site in this trade area? What is the 100% best site? There may be a 20-story office building on it. There may be a Chick-fil-A on it. There may be whatever.
Right.
But I want to understand in my real estate guy's eyes, where, if we could go anywhere, if we could just pick a site and take it, where's the best site? And then I work backwards from there. Yeah. So if I know this is the best site in the market, we'll talk about the attributes of what the best site in the market are and what those are. And now we're going to go look at our site, the one that we've chosen. And so I kind of use a system of negative, positive ticks, right? So I look at visibility. What is the visibility like? Is it negative or is it positive? And what I do is I peg AUV. So here's our AUV. And every time you get a negative tick, I'm going to move down the AUV. Every time you get a positive tick, I'm going to move up the AUV. I know if we were in the 100% site, we're going to do, 50% more than the AUV, but you're never, Chick-fil-A's already got that site. Chase Bank's already got that. So somebody's already got that site. Is it on the going home side of the street, right? So if you're on the going to work side, we don't do breakfast at all. We don't have that part. That doesn't make any sense. That's a huge negative tick. What is the visibility? One of the things that I learned at Starbucks, and this was kind of cool because I didn't have this at Radio Shack, is I used to always talk about through the light and on the right, right? So I always like to put my Starbucks right through a light and on the right. And the reason, my logic behind that was, if you had to go through a light, you had to look up and see the light. Everybody, whether it's red or green or yellow, you got to look up and see the light. So if you are forced to look up, you have visibility to the site and you have easy ingress, egress, that's the 1,000,000% site. So kind of our version of through the light and on the right is when you're approaching the site, doesn't have to necessarily be like that, but is it visible? Do we have pylon signage? Do we have monument signage? What is the access like? Do we have to go through it? So visibility, accessibility, what is parking? I don't care what the city, if it's one per 100 or 1 per 150, I don't give a shit about that. I want to know actually what we need to park it, where our employees going to be, looking at the site plan, where the dumpster is going to be, all those little nuances. Traffic counts, demographics. We obviously cater to an upper demographic. And then you discount those versus the best site.
Yeah, I love that perspective of starting with the best site and working backwards.
Yeah.
I've had another ex-Starbucks broker tell me the same thing, something similar, that basically Starbucks doesn't care if there's a building or an office tower or somebody else on the site. Like, they still want to know, could we get that site, and like do everything you can to get that site. So it's a great way to kind of analyze real estate. I'm sure you spend time looking at competition, looking at what other QSRs are doing.
Absolutely.
Is there a site selection mistake that you think people make maybe more often than not, whether that be brands or brokers, or is there anything that you see in the market? And maybe there's not, but you've had so much experience in this.
I'm trying to think a mistake people make. There's a lot of mistakes. I'm trying to think of one that's relevant. I think a lot of times a mistake that a broker or a real estate person maybe that's new to a company might make is not really looking at the attributes and the qualities of what makes their brand successful, right? So again, just because a Starbucks is successful does not mean a Layne's or McDonald's would be a pretty good analogy. It just doesn't mean that somebody else will be successful there. I have a lot of franchisees say, hey, I can be in this shopping center. I can be in line. The rent factor works. I'll be at a 5% rent factor, and so I don't have to do these kinds of sales. But it's like, what are the attributes that make your business successful? And, if you're a Domino's Pizza, you don't have to be in a freestanding building on the hard corner, right? So I think sometimes people lose sight of the business that they're doing site evaluation for, and they start looking at specifically the real estate. Yeah. So a site that's fantastic for one brand might be complete shit for another brand, and vice versa. So I really think you got to know who your customer is, who your target audience is, what are the traffic patterns of those people, and then execute based on that. So I think that's the biggest mistake. I mean, I see people say, this is a great site because of this, this, this. And I'm like, well, that is a great site. I can't argue it's a fantastic piece of real estate, but it's terrible for us. So it's like, who fits like this piece of real estate, who works on that piece of real estate, and then that's who your customer is.
The same recipe doesn't work for every brand. And it's, I think brokers can try and just copy and paste. Oh, it's the best piece of real estate in this trade area. Doesn't necessarily mean it fits your brand or the client that you're working with. So the chicken category, I feel like, has become increasingly competitive. Brands are growing and expanding. What sets Layne's apart, and what do people leave remembering in their mind? I need to go back to Layne's. That was different than any other chicken restaurant that I've been to.
I think I actually think that's pretty simple answer, very hard execution. So
I'm sure.
If you look at the brands that are, we're talking specifically QSR, and we can even boil it down to chicken, but I'll talk about QSR in general as an entire category. It is the value proposition that the brand is offering. And I don't mean value by the dollars that you're paying, but I mean value by the experience that you have. Okay. So in the QSR category, you can look at the people that are on the decline, and it is what it is. But if you look at the Wendy's and the Jack in the Boxes and even McDonald's, right? Everybody across the board is in terms of price point, not that far apart. Now, there's an extreme difference in quality. We sell premium chicken tender. Some people sell another premium, less quality chicken tender. But what it really is somebody's got a $10 bill in their hand and they're like, I'm going to spend this $10 bill. What am I going to get in return for it? You know, before you pull in, if you want a hamburger, you know, if you want chicken, all that kind of stuff, or it's a decision time. The value proposition is in the experience that the guest receives. So that truly is it. Are your drive-through times fast? I'm a huge fast food guy. I eat fast food, I don't know, 5-6 times a week. I'm through drive-throughs all the time. And it's not just because I own a fast food chain. I've always been a fast food guy. I love fast food. I eat McDonald's all the time. I eat Wendy's all the time. I eat Taco Bell almost every late night. And if you look at McDonald's, I've been a customer of theirs forever. McDonald's used to be brilliant for the fact that they were incredibly quick. Now, I don't know if you guys go to McDonald's often, but McDonald's has become incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And you're just not getting that delivery. Now, if you look at a Whataburger in Texas, Whataburger will tell you before you come in. Everybody knows that Whataburger is going to take you 10 minutes to get through the drive-thru. Everybody knows In-N-Out takes forever to get through the drive-thru. You know that up front, and you're going to get an experience in that drive-thru that's comparable to that. So really, it's McDonald's has the expectation of cheaper food, faster service. Well, they've now gone to a slower service, same food. So I guess the answer is what we give to our customers and the way we try to have an edge. And we're not the only ones that do this, but it's the customer interaction. It's the customer experience. It's that extra touch and making them feel like, you know what, this should be it's what Howard Schultz wrote in his book, The Third Place, right? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel at home? Now, I hate to be as arrogant to say, oh, people feel like Layne's is home. No, but it's like Cheers. You want everybody to know your name.
Like we talk a lot about that, how so much of it is about the experience from pulling in the drive-through to eating the food after, throwing the trash away. I mean, using the restroom, whatever it is, it's all about the experience.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about this, like we'll take Dallas, for example, Six Flags over Texas. Cool amusement park, roller coasters, rides, all this kinds of stuff, right? It's a good experience. Why do people pack up their families, fly all the way to California or Florida to go to Disney? Because it's a different level of experience, right? They're going to spend extra money. They're going to spend that extra time to get a Walt Disney level experience. Well, they could just drive across town and ride exciting roller coasters and get amusement. So it's truly the consumer at the end of the day wants to leave with a good experience. They know how much money they already want to spend. If you have a bad experience, there's 1,000 other QSRs. And this goes for full service sit down restaurants. If you have a good experience, you're going to become a regular, you're going to become a guest, and you're going to come back. That's what drives top line sales is increase in frequency of customer visits and new customers, but it's the experience.
Yeah. And it's such a nuanced thing to be able to execute. Like you said, it's making someone feel a certain way and doing that consistently when you're growing at the rapid scale that you are. That's the challenge, right? And that's where you see so many brands. Maybe they start with those desires and ambitions, and then it just kind of goes downhill as they're growing. So seeing that you guys transitioning a little bit here, seeing as you guys have maintained that through your stores, and that's why you have such a big following. What's the future for Layne's? I mean, where do you see the brand in 5 to 10 years? Are you going to be in every state? What's the goal?
I mean, we're in 9 states right now. Will we be in every state? I don't know about Hawaii and Alaska, but in what would you give me a time frame? 10 years?
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. Okay. In 5 years, we'll have covered, as long as we get the right franchisees, we'll have covered most of the United States. We'll definitely be international by then. We've talked to some potential partners about going overseas. That's very complicated. But I think, I truly believe that the growth trajectory we're on will continue. So in that number of time, I mean, if you're talking about what are the number of stores, by 2030, we should be well in excess of 350, 400 stores or restaurants. And then after 5 years, it's tough to tell. It's
right.
It all depends on the quality of franchisee that we get. and how well they follow our systems and processes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have some fantastic, I mean, we have some of the coolest franchisees that are on explosive growth trajectories, but they run great operations. They care about the guest. So, I mean, it will be hundreds of units. Do I think that one day we'll pass up like a Raising Cane's who has 900 units? Absolutely. We're a franchise organization. We're nimble. We can grow faster than a corporate organization. It's kind of like Dutch Bros 7 Brews, right? 7 Brews is going to be bigger than Dutch here in another year. So those are the type of aspirations that I have, and I think the team has, is we want to be, the dominant premium chicken tender player in the market. And I do believe we have the infrastructure and the quality of product and the quality of franchisees to do that. We just got to add some more quality franchisees to that. But I want to be the dominant premium chicken tender player. There's levels of chicken tender out there. There's some of these guys that sell a subpar product that will probably never be bigger than them. You guys,
Yeah.
But in the next 10 years, I want to be the dominant premium chicken tender player in the market.
That's awesome. So exciting. I've no doubt
No
you
doubt.
will. Yeah. Burn
I
the
will
boats,
be following
right?
closely. Yeah.
Make it happen. We like to kind of circle back and wrap everything up at the end of every episode. And we ask a similar question. If you could go back and sit down with your 25-year-old self over coffee, I guess that was just prior to you starting your own real estate company, what's one piece of advice you might give yourself, knowing what you know now?
Simple. Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin.
Mic drop.
Great advice. Yeah. Maybe we should talk about Bitcoin now.
Buy all the Bitcoin you can and then sell it in, 2024 or whatever. Advice I would give myself other than that is continue to be hard on yourself. Continue to demand excellence in yourself. Don't let up on yourself. I think the advice I would give myself is there's been times where I've allowed myself to make excuses for myself. And there's been times in my life where it's like, hey man, you've done this okay. You've done that okay. I would tell my younger self to be harder on myself, like push,
Interesting.
make yourself there. You're capable of more than you think you are. Don't accept mediocrity, like push. So that would be my advice. And to buy Bitcoin.
And buy Bitcoin. Love it.
You're the first guest that answered that question that way. And I love that answer. I can personally relate so much because I feel like Delaney and I, we're so hard on ourselves. And sometimes it's like, oh man, I should just give myself a break. But I love the perspective of like, no, that uncomfortable feeling of you need to push more is what's going to get you to the next level.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great message to leave the listeners with.
Yeah, don't leave yourself in a comfort zone. Just don't get there. Always be on the edge. Be nervous. Always be nervous.
Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. That's
Constant
where the growth
nerves.
happens.
Yep.
I saw, as you were saying that, I saw Brettley and I both go, oh, okay.
Yeah, if I'm not nervous, something's going wrong. I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not pushing hard enough.
You're not pushing hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, not enough risk.
Yeah. Not enough risk. Yeah.
I love it.
I'm going to start asking Delaney every morning, are you nervous today? Because if not, put something else on your schedule.
Put something on the calendar.
Do more. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for joining us on Brick and Brand today. This was a very insightful conversation. Your combination of real estate expertise and restaurant operations that you've brought to Layne's is something most people spend in either industry. Most people spend their entire careers hoping that they can do. And you somehow mastered both. So congratulations on all you've done. We're so honored that you took the time to sit with us and share your expertise and your knowledge. And it's super obvious that you've built Layne's and grown the brand intelligently and very strategically. It's so obvious that you really care about the brand and the experience that your customers and your guests are having. And you're doing an incredible job. So
thank you.
We can't wait to see what comes next. And thank you for being here.
I truly, I love doing podcasts. This was a great one. You guys are really good at what you do. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you so much, Garrett. We're excited to follow your growth.